Welcome to Sales Mastery on the amazing Women of Power radio station. I'm your host, Anna Scheller, and it is my passion to help you develop mastery through the programs that we bring you here on Sales Mastery. You know, mastery is a process. It would be nice if we all were the top salespeople within the first few weeks that we start. But the truth of the matter is that mastery is an ever-growing, ever-evolving learning process, and you have to stay in training. You have to stay coachable. You have to be willing to read and learn. And so that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here to help you with guests, with content, and most of all to encourage you on your journey so that you can master sales, make the money that you want to make, and live the life of your dreams. Now, you can find me at annascheller.com. That's Anna with two N's, Scheller, Scheller. And you can learn more about me, read my blogs. More importantly, you can find out about these broadcasts that happen every single week on the Amazing Women of Power radio station. So go to annascheller.com. Anna with two N's, Scheller. Now, speaking of masters, I have with me in studio today Mark Hunter, whom I call the prospecting master. Mark, welcome to not Black Belt Selling, it's Sales Mastery. I get them all mixed up.
Hey, that's okay. Hey, thank you for having me on today. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with Mark, Mark is the author of High Profit Selling and High Profit Prospecting. And I have to tell you that Mark's book on prospecting has become my prospecting Bible. When I'm not sure what to do, I go look and I read up and then I implement. And you know what? It works. Everything he tells you works. But it's just like everything else that you're going to master. You have to actually do it. You have to be patient with the results, and you have to keep at it. So I'm actually in one of Mark's coaching groups, right?
Yes, you sure are. Thank you. Thanks for being part of it.
Well, I enjoy it. I always learn a lot, not just from you, Mark, but from the others. And just for our listening audience who, now you've been a regular, you're becoming a regular on Sales Mastery, which I'm grateful for. But today we're going to be talking about email marketing, which is probably one of the biggest areas that people feel they should be getting more traction in. And we're also going to be talking about what do you do when the time of year when people don't seem to be around to answer your phone calls, like summertime. And actually, we're going to be looking at another slow time here, not very far in the future. So we want to help you today to start to build some of those strategies that are going to help you create more regular cash flow in your business. And, you know, if you want to take that vacation in the Bahamas, you actually will have a plan that you can count on the cash flow to do it, right, Mark?
You got it, because you got to go out and sell something first before you can do anything. That's right.
That's right. That's so right. So, Mark, first of all, let me ask, why are you so passionate about prospecting? I mean, why not something else about sales?
That's a good question. You know, I think I'm passionate about because it's something that so many people struggle with. And really what it comes down to, I'm just really passionate about sales because I didn't wake up, you know, I'm known as the sales hunter, but I was not born a salesperson by any means. And it took me years to kind of morph into it. But I'm so passionate about it now. And the area that people struggle in the most is prospecting. They just struggle with, they hyperventilate. I mean, the number of phone calls and conversations I have almost every day is amazing of talking somebody off the cliff. And I think the biggest reason why people don't stay in sales is because of prospecting. So that's why it's my passion. And I happen to think prospecting is absolutely a kick in the pants because it's not the big bogeyman that everybody makes it out to be. It really is not that hard. It's a series of conversations. And let me jump down the path for just a second. It really comes down to this. If you believe in the outcome that you can provide people with, you know, if you believe in the outcome you can provide people with, Don't you want to have that conversation with people? Yes. I mean, we're coming up on football season, and that means everybody starts talking about whether it be their college team or their pro team, whatever. And people are passionate. What do? They talk to everybody, including their chief rival regarding, how good their team is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Shouldn't that same thing be happening in sales because of the outcome that what does the team provide you with? The team, I don't see a jersey on you. I don't have a jersey on me. No. And yeah, it just didn't work out. So anyway, I mean, so here's the whole thing, that the outcome is the satisfaction we get from really enjoying and really following and connecting with our team. Gee, isn't that one of the big outcomes that we provide people with when they buy from us? We're able to connect with them. We're able to create this connect, and we're able to help them see and achieve what they didn't think was possible. See, that's why you got to get out and prospect. I love it. It doesn't fade. Rejection does not fade. Rejection is a moment in time. It's never permanent. Whoa, you just said it. Okay, I'll shut up.
Well, we're going to get to that because it's so, so important. And I love how you said that if you believe in what you're selling, then you want to get out and talk about it. I mean, really, it is the truth. If
and you know what though? Let's jump ahead on that one, because it's not just believing in what you sell; it's believing in the outcome that you deliver from what you sell.
Exactly.
Because I mean, I hear this comment, and I'm sure you hear it too. Well, if I only had something decent to sell, I know I could be better.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, it's not. It's the outcome. It's the outcome. I go to some restaurants where the food is really lousy. I mean, the food is really lousy.
Uh-huh.
But I love going there because the outcome from the wait staff and everybody is just it's an over-the-top experience.
Yeah.
You see, it's the outcome. It's the outcome. It wasn't the food. Yeah.
Well, and that reminds me, I think it's a story you've told about Zig Ziglar. You want to share that story? That really, I think.
Well, yes,
illustrates that.
When he was just beginning in sales, he was selling pots and pans door to door. Is this the story?
Yes, that's the
one. Yes.
Yep.
And you think about it, selling pots and pans. Excuse me, how excited can you get selling pots and pans? But he became successful when he wasn't focusing on the pots and pans, but he became successful on focusing on the meal that they were going to prepare, the experience, the family, what this was going to do for the homemaker, what was, all of the things regarding the lifestyle that the pots and pans were going. That's what he focused on. When he focused on that, that's when he focused on the outcome, not the product. Oh, it's a pot. It's a pan. It's got a handle on it. Excuse me.
Every pot has a handle.
He focused on the outcome.
Yeah.
That changes everything about why you want to prospect.
And I've learned so much from you just in the few months that I've been coaching with you. But one of the things that I think is a really big challenge for a lot of salespeople, and they use it as a default. And then they figure, well, if they don't answer me, they're not interested. And that is email. And so I want to cover a couple of topics, if that's okay. Let's dive in. One, what do you think is the biggest challenge that people have when it comes to email prospecting?
No, I have to narrow it down to one because there's so many. But hey, really, I'm going to say it's two. Okay, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat because I'm the guest. I get to write the rules.
You get to write the rules.
Yeah. One is over-reliance on email. People think that's the only way to prospect. So that's rule. Okay. But the other big one is that we write the prospecting email sitting at our computer, desktop, laptop, whatever. And wow, it looks really good. And then the problem is the person gets it on their smartphone and it looks pretty lousy, and I don't think anybody wants to get a 5-page thesis prospecting email.
No.
But I'll tell you what, that's what some people are sending out. Give me a break. Because if you don't capture their attention in that subject line and that first sentence, so critical. Don't waste it by saying, just checking in or did you get my phone call? Did you get my, oh, wow. Oh man, that is so bad. And then the first sentence where you go, hi, my name is, and I'm that. I saw a prospecting email the other day. This just absolutely blew me. It was forwarded to me. It wasn't sent to me. It was forwarded to me from someone. And this guy, for 3 sentences, said, I've done this, and this. That was the first paragraph. And the second paragraph is, I'm going to be in your area. I would like to meet with you. You got to be kidding me. Give me a break. It's all about him.
Yeah. And, and that's something that's really, really critical. And I want to talk about the subject line here because we do tend to talk a lot about ourselves, and we tend to come at our sales from our own perspective. So the reason I got into sales may not be the reason somebody else needs sales training. But let's talk about the subject line, because the subject line often is just checking in with you, or I have this great product for you, or I have fabulous news for you, or something like that. So what do we need to do to get our subject line to capture their attention to where they're not going to go delete, delete, delete?
Yeah. Will you win the lottery? I have pictures of you. No. I'm no. I mean, the whole thing is you have to have a subject line that is of interest to the person. And believe me, they didn't wake up. Nobody woke up this morning and said, "Oh man, I hope I get a prospecting email from Mark Hunter, the sales hunter." No, sorry. Nobody woke up with that. So if I'm going to send out a prospecting email, I got to send out a prospecting email that has a subject line that's going to interest them. It's got to be in their circle, their world. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be short. It's got to be tight. It's got to be none of these 18. Oh man. Oh, don't get me going, because some of these subject lines, they go on forever. Hi, and because think about this. All the person sees on their smartphone is probably the first 50 or 60 characters.
Right.
So if you write this long subject line and the meat is in the back end, the only person that's going to get the meat is going to be the trash bin, because they're going to delete it before they even read it.
So let's bring up some kind of an example. So let's say that you're talking to a manufacturing company. Yeah. And you've done a little bit of research. We don't want to do too much research, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can get caught up in, it becomes a way of procrastinating making the call, right? Oh
yeah. You know what? I just gotta check that. Let me just check this out. Let me just check. Oh, let me watch this cat video. Oh, look at this great cat video. Oh, look at this great cat video. And you wind up I'm out of time to prospect. I'll have to try them tomorrow. And so what happens is, you only wind up thinking about prospecting. Well, let me tell you something. Thinking about prospecting is not prospecting, because your prospect is not thinking about you. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm getting, I'm starting to get wound up here. Anyway, you've got to have say you're sending to a manufacturing firm, okay? And we'll say that what you sell is transportation services, okay? So it might be something like rate, transportation rate changes coming in the fourth quarter, transportation rate changes. Okay, that's all they're going to see. Okay, that's going to interest me, or new safety rigs, or whatever it might be, or price of fuel is going up, or maybe you sell labor, labor shortage. But you've got to key in on what is going to be of interest to them, because once they see the subject line, you got to draw them down to maybe the first 200 characters that they're going to see in the email. So don't waste it introducing yourself. Oh, man.
Right.
I see those and I go, delete, because you know what? You may want to meet me, but I really could care less about meeting you. Ooh, I'm getting harsh. I'm sorry. Wow. Man.
Well, that is not your style, Mark. I have to tell you, you're always very affable, but you can tell Mark is very energetic. And
you know what? And I say this because I really want people to succeed.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just there's no reason for people to fail. It just pains me when I see people struggling selling. Pains me.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to say that I've really learned a lot from you, Mark, is that it's a conversation. That's why you want to get their attention. That's why you want to really engage them right away, because your time is valuable, their time is valuable. There's no sense in wasting their time or yours with emails, because it's not necessarily a numbers game. I've been taught that for a long time. It's a numbers game. If you send out enough emails, somebody is going to respond back. And I know that's a strategy that some companies use, but how does that relate to email? Is that effective?
No, because you know what? If I send a bad email to one person, it's a bad email. If I send that bad email to 100 people, now I've sent 100 bad emails. And that's all that really happened. I mean, really, it is. I mean, it's not. I mean, for some, even a blind squirrel will find an occasional acorn.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just threw squirrels under the bus. But this whole game, if I just send out enough emails, then what you're really hoping for is that you throw out enough breadcrumbs, and somewhere along the line, somebody's hungry and going to reach down and grab a breadcrumb, and they're going to think of you. That's really what you're hoping for. And that's just not going to, yeah.
Yeah, and you're not even really memorable because, for whatever reason. Now, one strategy that you talk about is to promote industry expertise. What do you mean about that?
Well, yeah, because think about this. If you want, so many customers get turned off because they feel salespeople don't understand them and their business. So if I can come in and I can communicate some information regarding your industry, regarding what's happening, wow, then you're not quite seeing me as a salesperson, but you're seeing me as an industry peer. What does that do? That gets a much better discussion going. And, this thing called the internet, I've heard it's catching on, and I think it's going to go places.
I'm not sure, but
it's still a little it's still a little sketchy, but it's an amazing tool. You can get any kind of research you want in 30 seconds or less. I mean, it's amazing. So all I have to do is to have one piece of information, and I can run with it. And that's why I love when I'm prospecting, I prospect by industry. You stay focused on that industry because you develop that expertise. So it might be, Tuesday, I'm in this industry. Wednesday, I'm in this industry. Thursday, I'm in this industry. And wow, it just helps you feel so much smarter.
Well, and your buddy, Anthony Anarino, he's been on our show. Lovely guy. I'm going to get him back. And Anthony says that we've for so long been subservient, but we really need to come in as peers. Yes. We need to come in as really a trusted advisor. And a trusted advisor is not the dog asking for crumbs. It's the person that sits at the table and says, I've been looking at what's going on here, and I see that you've got this issue, and I've been looking at these parameters for you. This is what I recommend based on what you're going through, and then my solution is not about making money. My solution is about your solution. My solution is about your business.
That changes everything around, and what that does also is the bigger the company, the more you have to be seen as a peer. The bigger the company, because big companies don't want to deal with little kids. They don't have time for them.
No.
So don't come in and play this. No, you got to come in. You got to come in as a peer. When they see you as a peer, then they're going to begin to respect you.
Now, let me ask you this question too, and we could just spend the entire half hour just on email marketing, but I really do want to talk about what do we do when things are slow. But the last thing I want to ask you about is, what about links? And, should I send them to a link? What's the deal with that, or should I leave them out?
Yeah, I am not a big fan of that. Now, after I've been trying to reach you 10 times, so forth, then I may get desperate. I may put a link in, but I don't want to, because here's the whole thing. What does a link do? It can gum up an email system. Okay. Yeah. So boom, it'll move you suddenly to the spam folder, and you are never seen again.
Exactly.
You actually take them away from your message, and now what can happen is they can get all their questions answered without ever talking to you. What's the objective of the email? The objective of the email is to create a discussion.
Yeah.
On this thing called the telephone. Hey, amazing. It's an amazing tool. That's what you want the email to do. So my fear is that I send them to a link, and who knows? Like I said, this internet thing is catching on. They're going to wind up going all over the place.
Yeah, and we also have social media to get information as well. The good, the bad, and the ugly, but it's there.
Oh,
and
it's there. It's there. Yeah. Yeah.
It's actually, I think, superseded a lot of things in terms of, there were things that were 5 years ago popular for prospecting and such. Now, really need to be, but the same principles apply to social media, wouldn't you say?
The same principles apply. All we're doing is changing the vehicle. That's all. There's nothing that's changed regarding prospecting. I mean, really, if you stop and think about it, all that's changed is the vehicle delivery method. That's all that's changed. And then what that does is it changes the cycle, changes the cadence. That's it.
Yeah.
It's still about creating a one-to-one relationship based on trust and integrity.
Now, speaking of, ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know that there is so much more to this topic than what we're talking about. And I want to really encourage you to get Mark's book, High Profit Prospecting. There it is. It's on Kindle. Have you got it on Audible yet?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It is on Audible, but I didn't do the audio when we did the book 2 years ago. Or this was just a little over a year ago.
A year ago, yeah.
I was so busy, I just couldn't break free enough to be able to do the audio. So, but it's done by a class gentleman. He does a great job. So the audio version is excellent. I think he does me better than me does me, but that's a different story.
I can't imagine that. But I really do encourage you, if this is an area that you struggle in, the other thing you need to do is get a coach. You can talk to Mark. You can talk to me. I help people with prospecting. And I'll tell you the reason I help people with prospecting, because I'm like everybody else. Sometimes picking up the phone, I have to tell myself it's the right thing to do. I would rather do something else, but we all have to do it. Now, we only have about a little over 5 minutes, so we really want to talk about selling seasons because it can be very discouraging if you're not aware of selling seasons and what you can do while people are on vacation or whatever. So address that, Mark.
Yeah, there are really two main selling seasons a year. We have winter, we have 4 seasons. No, everybody has 5 seasons because they always put road construction in there as a 5th season. So anyway, but that's in every state but New Hampshire. They don't work on roads. But no, I just offended somebody in New Hampshire. Anyway.
They do in Alaska though.
Oh, they do. Hey, yeah. I used to live in Alaska. They have 6 seasons there because they have road construction and they have breakup. But that's a whole separate. Discussion.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, those of you who live in Alaska, you know what breakup is. Anyway, okay. Selling season. 2 main selling seasons. The first one is from about the middle of January to about late April into maybe the first week of May. What that is, this is a time when a lot of people are making buying decisions. They're buying, they've come back from the holidays, things are geared up. It's that 2nd, 3rd week of January and things get going. And this is when a lot of salespeople make a lot of their, and then you get down towards the latter part of April and, summer and all that stuff, all that stuff just begins to kick in and it's harder to get people together for meetings and we kind of go into this lag. And then we have the second selling season, which really happens. The official first day of selling season 2 is the day after Labor Day. But, sometimes it's the middle of August. But anyway, it's kind of when school goes back into session, depending on where you are, in the States. And it's because people are back in the groove. And then that kind of goes to about the middle of November. And then it's like, it's the holidays. Oh, well, you know what? We'll just talk about it after the first of the year. Why don't we talk about it in January? Yes, there's the spurt for some industries that occur in December as people are spending cash and so forth. But by and large, the selling season is so what this means is right now, we're on the verge of selling season. You've got to be using July and August as heavy up prospecting. This is, people say, I can't prospect during the summer because nobody's around. Yeah, but you know what? That's what your competition said. So guess what? They're not prospecting. Right. I love prospecting during the summer months because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get appointments. And people say, well, why don't we wait till after Labor Day when everybody's back and we could get a meeting? No. You sit there and say, hey, you know what? You're right. People aren't going to be back. But why don't you and I meet? Why don't we meet? Get that initial, don't wait for the group to get together. This is what stalls. A lot of people have an initial prospecting call, and it goes well. And then you got to go to that second phase where you get that group meeting. Well, we'll wait till after. Well, let's wait till the middle part of it. Let's wait till everybody comes back from vacation in September. We'll look at calendars. No, grab a meeting right then with at least one or two of those players. You've got to keep things in motion, because here's why. When you're selling in August, September, you're not quite sure if this is going to be current fiscal year or next fiscal year. You see, and yes, you want to get this current fiscal year. I certainly get that, but you really haven't vetted the customer enough. So what you got to do is you got to get far enough along that if it does go next fiscal year, that they have time to put it in their budget for next fiscal year. If you wait and be making these phone calls in middle of October, latter part of October, guess what? Budgets are probably far enough along that maybe it's those commitments are already made for next year. This right now is when you're doing your prospecting for next year. Yeah. Huge. Now, it's not that you're doing the prospecting now because you got to get the sale made so that they get it in the budget. Well, you know what? I can't fund it all this year. I got to fund part of it this year and part of it next. Fine. I don't care. I take money on both years. It's okay. It's okay. I'll take double.
Exactly. And so this is not a time. So and especially if things are quiet around the office, you don't have the customer care that you have to be constantly on top of. So use this time productively, and don't get discouraged if the sales aren't coming in. What will happen is you work this as you prospect, as you reach out and you touch people with your marketing. What's going to happen is you're going to create fewer peaks and valleys in your sales. And that's what you want, because none of us wants to look at Christmas, stare down Christmas and go, I don't have money now to buy kids the gifts, or we don't have the money to go travel to visit family or whatever. So these are strategies that you can implement now. And you say, well, Anna, but Mark, I haven't been doing that. But let's get started now. Don't worry about what's happened, because maybe it'll take a few weeks for you to get some traction. But if you don't start now, you're never going to get traction. You got to get traction.
Whenever somebody says, it's been slow this month, the question I always ask them is, how much prospecting did you do last month and the month before? Exactly. When business is slow, it's because you didn't do prospecting the month before, the quarter before, whatever it is with your sales cycle. Hey, peaks and valleys are great for mountain climbing and downhill skiing. They're terrible for sales.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, any last words before we close the show for the day?
Sales is absolutely fun when you focus on the outcome that you're going to provide your customer. Put the scripts aside. Scripts are for plays. Conversations are for sales. It's real. I thoroughly love sales because it's connecting with people. I love it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining me. Again, I really want to encourage you, get Mark's book, High Profit Prospecting. Get on his mailing list, because he sends out every Wednesday. He sends out great content for you to read and look at. And now, Mark, you're doing LinkedIn Live. And
we're doing all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah. And hey, let's pitch the website. It's thesaleshunter.com. Yeah, thesaleshunter.com. When you got the last name of Hunter, you might as well use it. So you're right. So a lot of market research went in. That was the domain name that was available. Okay, it's done. It works.
There you go. So again, I want to thank you for joining me today on Sales Mastery on the amazing Women of Power radio station. Tune in every Thursday at 10:30 Central Standard Time in the morning for Sales Mastery on the amazing Women of Power radio station. Make it a great day. Welcome to Sales Mastery on the amazing Women of Power radio station. I am your host, Anna Scheller, and it is my mission to equip you with tools, mindset, with all of the things you need to master sales. Now, sales mastery is not a one day and you're done journey. I can't teach you something and it automatically is going to fix all your problems. But if you will commit to walking every single day with the intention of getting better, even as little as 1%, And by implementing even just one suggestion that you hear on these shows, then you, my friend, are on your way to mastering sales. Now, you can learn more about me by going to my Facebook page at facebook.com/Anna for Your Success. There I post, I do videos, different things, but most of all, you can interact with me. You can let me know what challenges you're having, and we can maybe get together and talk about what we can do to help you grow your business through sales. So go to my Facebook page, Anna Scheller, facebook.com/Anna. That's Anna with 2 N's, the number, for your success. Well, all of this month, we are focusing on time management, because time management is really about productivity. And don't we all want to be productive? Last week, I talked about how sometimes we identify ourselves with our work. Our identity is so caught up in our work that we are not able to really separate ourselves from work. We're not able to find that all-important balance that's so necessary for us to be human beings and not human doings. Human beings, not human doings. I shared the story about my boss who questioned my loyalty when I would walk away from the job, even an hour after I was supposed to have left. We so get caught up in those kinds of ideas, and we even get rewarded for staying late. We get rewarded by people saying, oh my gosh, isn't she a good worker? Or, you know, that shows great dedication that you're staying after hours. I actually remember a situation where we had been working on a project, and this was again when I was in the military. We'd been working on this project, and I could hear the complaints from all of the people who were involved in the project, except, of course, the colonel whose next promotion was riding on the success of the project. Well, unfortunately, I took it upon myself to go to the colonel and let him know that people were tired, people needed a break, people needed some time to themselves because the project was really just draining everybody of everything. And of course, what most of us knew was that after this project, on the heels of that would be another project that would be just as requiring of time and draining. And the sad thing was that colonel looked at me and said, you know, I think I'm just going to go let them know how much I appreciate them. What was so sad about it was he didn't understand, and I didn't get across to him that the folks needed time away. They needed a break. So today we're going to talk about the effects of working too much, spending too much time. We are also going to talk about some personality types that tend to love that kind of thing. And maybe you'll find yourself in one of those personality types. I know I did. And finally, we're going to give you some organizational tips that will help you manage, tame your work so that at the end of the day, even if you have to leave things undone, you can have a sense of accomplishment. All right? So let's dig in. One person once said, what if we put in shorter hours, got the work done anyway? Yeah, how about that? You know, people are doing it. Let me tell you another story. This is a story about another work center. In a work center, this particular group of people were really becoming very tired of their work center. It seemed that when they came in at 6 o'clock in the morning, they weren't leaving until 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. People were complaining when they walked in. They weren't happy. They were just stealing little breaks here and there because they were so tired. Not only that, but projects were left undone till the end of the day. And there was an increase in people coming to work late because they knew they were going to have to stay late anyway. So the management team looked at these problems and said, what can we do to make people happy, to build the morale in our group and still get the job done? What they came up with was to limit people's working hours, and at that time this was a big deal, to limit their working hours from the time they walked in to the time they left to just 10 hours. And that included 1 hour for break. So when they did that, they learned something quite amazing. First of all, people were refreshed. People were excited about coming back to work. The second thing they noticed is that people were more productive. Everyone from the top management all the way down to the paper pusher who sat in the desk all day long. Productivity went up. Additionally, things were getting accomplished. Projects weren't being left till the next day because they knew they weren't going to have to stay in order to get things accomplished. Not only that, but the little accidents that were happening at work, those things started to diminish. Now, as you might be able to tell, that was a work center that I was in the management of. We decided to limit the number of hours people worked. It was a little scary at first because we were afraid we were going to lose productivity, but we were very pleasantly surprised when people came to work excited, people came to work energized, and people got the work done in less time with fewer mistakes than they had been when we were requiring them to stay 12 and 14 hours a day. So research has found that productivity drops significantly when work days extend beyond 10 hours a day. They have found that the longer people work, it is connected to health issues, because people aren't taking care of themselves, absenteeism, which happened in the story that I shared with you, as well as depression. And I don't know if you're aware, but currently in the current society, depression is a huge factor. A lot of people are on medication because they are depressed. And it could very well be to long work hours. Now, why is that important for salespeople? Well, how are we going to make sales if we're depressed? How are we going to make sales if we're not full of energy and not excited about what we're doing for people? The fact of the matter is the level of energy we have can often determine whether somebody wants to work with us or even talk to us or not. There are people who enjoy talking to you when you're on your upbeat. And that doesn't mean you have to fake anything, but if you're struggling with areas of depression, lack of energy, and fatigue, maybe you need to look at your work hours. And of course, I'm going to have a solution for you, so don't worry, we're going to get there before you know it. But let's talk a little bit about sleep. It seems that the longer you sleep, the longer you work, the longer you work, the less you sleep. Now that makes a lot of sense, right? A lot of times, and I've had this happen to myself, and I've had it happen to people who are close to me, and even clients have told me that this has happened. When they go to bed at night, the concerns, the worry, the work, it goes to bed with them, and it keeps them awake, wondering if they've forgotten to do something, or just feeling exhausted, so tired that they can't fall asleep. Well, sleeplessness is a really significant detriment to our ability to perform. Sleep deprivation, in case you didn't know, sleep deprivation is a technique that's used by captors when they are trying to torture POWs. Why is that? Because without sleep, we can't think clearly. Without sleep, we start to mumble. Without sleep, we actually can't function at all. It's worse than being drunk, you know? And so we want to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves, and we need to make sure that we guard our sleep time. And the way to do that is if we find that our work is crowding its way into the bedroom, then we have to find a way to limit work's abilities. It's like taming an animal, or even more so, disciplining an unruly child. When in sales we are going after things, it's so hard sometimes, but I want to encourage you that it's so important that you're careful to protect your sleep, because when you're sleep deprived, you're not functioning as well, and it's going to tend to more depression, it's going to tend to health issues. There's a lot of difficulties that come when you don't get enough sleep. So, but let's talk about what are the things that happen during the day that cause us to be less productive. So we live in an age where we are at the fingertips of everything. I love my phone. I think my phone is awesome. Do you know what? For this episode, I turned my phone onto the airplane mode. Why? Because I knew that my tendency is when the phone pops off, I have a tendency to look at it to find out what's going on. Now I'm learning to curb that, but it's so much easier if I don't have those notifications. With so much information at our fingertips, it actually stalls our productivity. You know, it's so easy to respond quickly to an email, a text, some kind of notification on your phone. And I was surprised to find this out, but every little interruption that we have actually costs us over 20 minutes of productivity. Let me repeat that. Every single interruption that comes our way costs us in over 20 minutes of productivity. Wow, that's a lot of time. When you think about if your phone is popping off 20 times with a notification and you stop where you work and you look at that, 20 times 23, that's over 400 minutes. Divide that by 60, and that's an entire day of wasted time. An entire day of wasted time. That's almost 7 hours. 7 hours of wasted time. So we want to be aware of what's going on. We have to do this thing called time blocking. But before we get to time blocking and talk about the benefits of time blocking, let's talk about some personality types that tend to overwork, that tend to find their greatest satisfaction in staying late. Keep in mind that one of our biggest challenges as salespeople is that our work is never done. There does come a time when we have to stop. We have to say this and no more. But let's talk about these personalities. I think you're going to have fun with it because I did. Some of you may be familiar with the DISC personality types. It's 4 personality types. There's the dominant personality, the influencer, there's the steadfast person, and there's the compliant person. So the dominant person tends to be the person who is always driving forward, very task-oriented, want to get things done. The influencer is somebody who tends to be more people-focused. They work more on the relationship basis, and they love building relationships. Steadfast people love a group, and they will work in the group, and they just enjoy being part of making sure that things are going smoothly. And then there's the compliant person who's very rule-oriented. This is the person that if you deviate from the rules, they're going to tend to be right there and let you know that that's not acceptable. Well, the 2 types of these personalities that really tend to be the overworkers tend to be the dominant personality type, or the driven, and the influencer, or the relational personality type. Now, that doesn't mean that the other 2 personality types are not given to some sort of overwork. But in sales, this tends to be these 2 types of people who have these as dominant personality traits. These people tend to overwork. So let's take Mr. Driver, for example. Mr. Driver, very task-oriented. Give him a list, give him a set of people that he can start to call. He's on it. No problem. That's your guy. But he's easily bored. If things start to stall, he's bored and he becomes impatient. So if he does that, then this is the guy that's going to tend to switch priorities. He's going to find something else to do that's going to get him all revved up and get his adrenaline pumping again. Well, what ends up happening is that the tasks that he's waiting for some kind of results on, they may start to come to fruition. And what ends up happening also is he's trying to do more things than he has time for. Uh-oh, that's the multitasker. That's the multitasker. And if you don't know, the science is out, and the science is telling us that multitasking doesn't work. Our brains are not geared to do multiple things at one time. We are productive when we focus on one thing at a time, and that's it. So because of that, the multitasker, the driven person, is going to tend to juggle things. I'm going to take care of this over here, and I'm going to take care of this over here, and I'm going to take care of this over here, and they're going to be like spinning the plates. And when this plate stops or starts to slow down, they're going to run over, they're going to neglect these plates, and they're going to start spinning those plates again. Well, the challenge with that is it's not productive. But the thing is the adrenaline's going, the adrenaline's pumping, and they're telling themselves, hard work pays off. Hard work pays off, right? And there's a lot of people out there that'll say, well, if you're having trouble, you just need to work harder. Well, I'm going to tell you, we're going to learn to work smarter, not necessarily harder. Are you finding yourself in that person? You're the one who will tackle the list, and then when things slow down, you find something else to do? Well, when you implement some of the suggestions that I have for you at the end of this episode today, I think you're going to be able to find that you're going to be able to not be so multitasking, and you're going to be able to get control of your time and be more productive and be of better benefit to your customers. Now, I said there was another person that tends to overwork, and this is the relational person. This is your influencer. They thrive on influence. They see being busy as a good thing. So they tend to be impulsive and they overcommit. So some of the behaviors are very similar to the driver. I'll do that. And that they hear about that problem, and so, yes, count me in. And they want to be part of that solution. They want to be everywhere because they feel a need to influence, because they want to influence. What happens here is that because that person tends to overcommit and is impulsive, they're not thinking through all of their commitments. What happens is they tend to overlook details. That's a challenge. I honestly tend to identify with this person. Their follow-through is less effective. They tend to flit from thing to thing to thing, thinking they're getting stuff done because there's so much to do. But in essence, they're not. Now, the challenge is they see that being busy is a good problem, right? Busyness and business are not the same, but they think they can be, and they feel good about it because it's stroking a part of them that likes to be involved in a lot of things. This is different from the driver. The driver likes to get things done, and that's why he's getting stuff done. The influencer is in this dilemma because they like being part of a lot of different things. They want to be productive, but really they get their mojo comes from being really involved with a lot of different things. So the customers and the boss tend to suffer. The boss, because they're not getting things, they're not taking care of the little details that make a difference, which in sales, my friend, we know that if you're going to master things, it's often in the details that mastery comes. So they will shuffle priorities in order to keep customers happy, which means they're really not getting anything done at all. And if that's you, go ahead into the Facebook group. So if you tend to be the driven, task-oriented person, go over to my Facebook group at facebook.com/Anna for your success. And I have a post in there that says, what personality type are you? Let me know if you're the driven personality type or you're the influencing personality type, or if you think you're neither one. That's an awesome awareness to come to as well. So we want to be aware of our tendencies, because until we're aware, we're not going to be able to put ourselves in a position to change. And I'm not saying that we need to change our personalities. What we want to do is we want to become aware of the things that trigger certain responses, and we want to weigh them against what we need to get done for the day. So here's a 3-step process to help you stay on task with your work and limit your work monster. Well, not monster, but limit your work to work hours that are going to be very productive for you. So earlier in the show, I believe I mentioned it in the last show as well, we talked about how too much information, notifications, our emails popping up, the phone ringing, getting personal phone calls from friends or children or family, those things disrupt, they interrupt, and they cause a lag of 23 minutes of productivity for us, which we figured out if we get 20 interruptions in a day, we are left with only about an hour of productive time. It's not a lot of time. So the first thing we want to do is during work hours, we want to turn off those distractions. When I'm working on social media, I'll take those social media notifications. Perfect. I limit the amount of time I'm on social media so that I can work with those notifications right then and there. Here's the thing. If somebody needs to get in touch with me and it needs to be immediate, they can run over to my website and they can send me an email, because my email is, I will attend to my email a lot of times before I'll get back to my social media. But you want to have your phone, so that's like on your computer, okay? Now, if you're working on a specific project, I would even encourage you to set a time limit where you're not going to look at your email. It's just that important. When you're looking at email, block out a time just for email and answering email and attending to the email, the stuff in your email, right? They have done some studies of sales professionals, and because of all of these distractions, and I'll get to answering the phone in a minute, so don't worry about that. But they've looked at that, and all of these distractions, they realized that only 20% of a sales professional's working hours is spent in productivity. 20%. What's 20% of 8 hours? 20% of 8 hours is less than 2 hours. That is less than, what's 1.6 hours, so it's only about an hour and 35 minutes maybe. Are we wasting that much time? Are we putting off tasks because we're getting involved in it? And let's face it, when we start on a text message or we start on email or something along those lines, what ends up happening is it takes longer than we expect, and the next thing we know, it's an hour, and we haven't gotten anything accomplished. One of the things that can help you get back on track, well, before I talk about that, let me talk about answering the phone. Answering the phone is very important. And you can also have certain times that you will respond to people. Most often, people don't need to hear back from us immediately. And not having that availability also places value on our time with people. So we want to have set times that we are available on the phone, especially when we have projects or we have things that need to be taken care of. And I'm going to talk about how we can focus that time here in just a moment. But let me talk just a minute about handling distractions. Now, distractions are inevitable. Let's face it, we're going to have distractions. Sometimes even our best intentions to not be distracted, we're still going to have distractions. So when we're distracted, it's very simple to find a way to come back to the task. For me, what I do is I start to focus on my breathing. I'll breathe in and breathe out. And then I'll come back to the breathing in and out. And I count my breaths. And when I find my mind wandering maybe to a distraction, what I simply do is I just note the distraction, and then I come back to breathing. Now, see, you can do the same thing with your work. I'm not saying that you have to stop and breathe if you have a distraction, but if there's a distraction, you go, oh yeah, I need to get back to this. It's going to cut your interruption time significantly. If you need to, have a pad next to you so that you can write down what comes to mind so that you can get back to the task at hand. You might be worried, what if I forget something? If you forget something, trust me, it'll come back to you, especially if you don't worry about forgetting something, okay? So the first thing is turn off distractions when you're getting ready to do a block of work. Now, I mentioned earlier about time blocking. Time blocking is very important. What you want to do for your tasks is you want to set aside at least an hour to 90 minutes to focus on a specific task. And in that time, you eliminate your distractions. Now, if phone calling is the thing that you have to do, that's part of your prospecting, close your door. Make sure that your personal phone is turned off, or your notifications for your messages, whatever it is that tends to take you away from the task. And then stay focused on that for 60 to 90 minutes. If you think that's a long time, start with 30 minutes and work your way up. So you want to schedule those times. You want to put those times in your schedule. I actually have times where I devote only and specifically to key activities that are going to move my business forward. Now, when you're in a customer-oriented business like sales, what you have to do is realize that sometimes your best efforts, you're still going to get derailed. Instead of beating yourself up for it, what you have to do is sit down and go, okay, so tomorrow morning, I'm going to put aside all distractions. I'm going to have somebody help me with this, if you're able to do that, so that you can dedicate the time. Even 30 to 45 minutes is better than no time at all. Now, I've been asked about, well, should I have a to-do list or not? Some people feel comfortable with to-do lists. I find that to-do lists only tend to get longer and longer and longer. So what I do is I write down the things that I know must get done. And then I make sure that by the end of the day, those things are done. And if I have to, I set aside the time to make sure that those activities get done. So if I have follow-up activities, I want to get those scheduled into my calendar and make sure that they happen. And the biggest way, I have to go back to rule number 1, get rid of the distractions. Get rid of the distractions. Well, Anna, I've got to meet with a client tomorrow. Great, no problem. Then you look at your calendar and you move that activity to another time so that you can still meet your deadline. But even if your day gets interrupted, which happens, life happens, things happen, then what you want to do is you want to schedule the activity for the next day, especially if it's important for your business. Now, I also like to operate by triggers. Triggers. These are things in my environment that help me remember what I want to get done next. Probably one of my best triggers are little Post-it notes. I keep these handy. And then when I want to remember something and I can't remember it, can't remember it. If I want to remember something and I want to move on, what I quickly do is I take my Post-it note, I write the note down, and then what I do is I stick it to my daily journal. So let me introduce to you my daily journal. This is my daily book. It's my daily journal. And every page on this book is attached to a day. If there are client conversations, they go into this book as well. Anything that's going on in my life, in my business, goes in this book. And so it's here that I'm going to have the tendency to put notes down. These are notes that are not necessarily going to be done today, but they're there so that I can move them to the appropriate day. And from there, I schedule them. So what are the triggers that you can use? Is it a Post-it note? Is it when you see the phone, it reminds you to call somebody? I've got an entire episode just about, triggers for behavior change. But find things that will help you stay on track, but won't interrupt your flow of work. That's why I love the Post-it notes. Everybody's different, but for me, Post-it notes work very well because they help me to stay on track with the things I want to accomplish that I can't get to right away. The third thing is I want you to limit your focused activity to those times that you block out on your time and make sure that you take a break. At the end of the day, there have been times when I've been so exhausted from all of the work that I simply could not do anything else. These were the days that I didn't take breaks in my productivity, especially when you're doing a lot of mental work. You're actually using up glucose in the brain, and you're tired because you don't have the energy. So what you can do, there are several tools online. There's a tool called Trello, and in Trello, you can actually put your tasks in Trello. You can use an app called Pomodoro, and the Pomodoro app, or Pomelo, it's the Pomelo app. So you click on that Pomelo app, you decide the task that you're going to work on, and it will automatically give you 25 minutes, it'll time you for 25 minutes. At the end, the timer goes off and suggests that you take a 5-minute break. If you will do that, take a 5-minute break, it freshens your mind, you can come back, you work for another 25 minutes, you get another reminder for another 5-minute break, work another 25 minutes, and then at the end of that, there's a reminder for a 15-minute break. What that does is it helps you to stay on track. You know, especially if you're doing a task that's taking a lot of time, that you're only going to have to stay focused for 25 minutes at a time. And then after those 90 minutes pass, if it's necessary, you move on to a different task. It's an easy, simple way to help you stay focused so that you're more productive. Of course, when you're on those times, what are you going to do? You're going to turn off your distractions. You're going to actually schedule and plan those times using Pomelo, using Trello, or whatever device. That's one I use. But there are other time management, time planning apps out there that are free that will help you as you begin to tame your work. At the end of the day, you have to come to a place where you say, the day is done, I'm doing no more. And if you want, you can write down things that you want to make sure get done the next day, which I recommend. Many of the most productive people in the world, they spend 5 to 15 minutes at the end of the day writing down the things they want to be sure get accomplished the next day. And then they follow the system again. So what have we talked about? Well, we've talked about the cost of becoming a workaholic. We have talked about the personality types that tend to want to overwork and why that is. And then today we also talked about a 3-step process that will help us to tame our work, keep it in perspective, so that at the end of the day, we can walk away, we can go home, we can get the sleep we need, and we can come back to work fresh the next day. Because not only is this about helping you, this is about us helping our customers. We can be our best when we're ready to go. We can give our customers everything they need when we are excited and energized about the work we have to do. So thank you for joining me today on Sales Mastery. Next week, we're going to talk about some more things that interfere with our ability and lead to procrastination. Because even with this all, we tend to still have the temptation to procrastinate. So next week, we're going to talk about how do we stop procrastination so that we can be more productive and we can make more sales, serve more people, and live the life of our dreams. Thank you for joining me on Sales Mastery today. Again, I want to invite you, go to my Facebook page, look for the post that says Time Management What personality are you? Look for that post. Let me know. Are you driven? Are you an influencer? Or are you something else? I would love to chat with you. Thank you so much. Make it a great day. And we'll see you next week on Sales Mastery on the amazing Women of Power radio station.